when I Googled the story of Ganesha, I was like, this is a preposterous thing that we like celebrate this beheading, you know? It's like, what a ridiculous story. Like, no one asked Ganesha how he feels about having an elephant head.
Nimesh Patel has built a comedy career on sharp writing, relentless hustle, and a willingness to bet on himself. An Emmy-nominated writer and stand-up powerhouse, he's gone from late-night debuts to sold-out theaters. He got his big break when Chris Rock handpicked him to write for the Oscars, launching a career that's taken him through SNL, Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, and the White House Correspondents Dinner. But it's his own voice, unfiltered and self-made, that has set him apart. His self-released specials have racked up millions of views, proving that in today's comedy landscape, you don't have to wait for the spotlight, you create it. Now, Nimesh Patel joins me to talk about the journey and the jokes that got him here. Nimesh, welcome to That Desi Spark. We're thrilled to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
When you were young, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I had a lot of aspirations. I saw Top Gun. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I would pretend my bed was a plane. Then I had to get glasses, so that dream died. Then I think I wanted to be an architect for a while. I just liked buildings and Legos. And then I don't know when I wanted to be a lawyer because I liked arguing. But that seemed like a lot of reading, and so that was dumb. And then doctor was in my head for a while. I think my mom kind of incepted me into wanting to be one, but then I actually did want to be a physician. But that dream died in junior year of college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it organic chemistry that did you in, or?
As everybody else, and the best of many a Patel have failed at organic chemistry. It's been the feeder class for a lot of people. So yeah, it did me in right.
When did you kind of find comedy, or how did it find you?
Well, I mean, I started stand-up in August of 2009, but I think I grew up with a lot of cousins, and so we were always talking shit to each other. I think anyone that grows up with a big family could be a solid comedian because you have an audience already. Most gatherings were just like yelling at each other and trying to snap. But I graduated in 2008 from NYU, and I wasn't the strongest student. And so when I was for a year or so after I graduated, I was underemployed and unemployed. And I took a class at NYU that I did not like a writing class, because I just needed some kind of outlet. Something in my soul was calling me to write. And that class was telling people about my feelings and stuff. I was like, this is stupid. I don't like this at all. And then it was in the summer between May of 2009 and August of 2009 that something hit me. I was like, maybe I'll try stand-up. And I wrote a bit, and in August of 2009 I went on stage, and that was really it. Yeah, luckily the bug stuck. Yeah, it's I was not a student of comedy. I wasn't super young, holding a microphone, I'm gonna be a comedian or anything like that. It was just kind of fell into it. And I was like, well, I gotta be good at something. So let me try this thing out. And that was it.
Do you have any comedic role models that kind of helped shape you on your journey over the past?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people I could thank, but inspirationally, Chris Rock, obviously, was not obvious, but it was a huge inspiration. You know, we were quoting Bigger and Blacker when I was in high school. Russell Peters was the first Indian to ever really do it, and I remember he was the first Indian comedian. He was he's the first Indian comedian that was like, Mom, Dad, you got to see this guy. They were they were floored. That was in 2004 when his YouTube special was the first thing. He was the first viral comedian, I think. And I remember watching his special in September of 2004, with my Indian floor mate, being yo, this is crazy. So Russell for sure. O'Neill, who's one of my favorite comics, if not the greatest. Chappelle, yeah, everybody you would think of, and then Norm Macdonald. Like, I could never be like Norm, so his style and his joke telling is just on another planet.
Your career in comedy has both been on stage as well as a writer. Talk us through how your journey started within writing and in parallel being on stage as a stand-up.
Well, everything I've ever gotten is because of stand-up. Any job I've gotten, any interview I've had, anything that has been born of stand-up. The first writing a job I got was with Rock, was because he saw me performing and liked what he saw. And it was like a few months later, it was like, you want to write for the Oscars? I was like, for you, yeah, obviously. For anybody, obviously. But yeah, and that was my first writing job. My first guild writing job. My first actual like comedy writing job was with my friend Shanali, who had somehow gotten some work from the Blue Man Group to write like copy or marketing copy. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But my first like official writing job was with Rock. And I had a bunch of other ones. Like Husson gave me 2 writing jobs. Aquafina gave me a writing job. But all of this is just a function of stand-up. You know, like when I got SNL, it was because Che and I had kind of started together, and his start obviously took off like almost immediately. But when he was on Update, he was like, I need help. And his second year there, he was like, you want to try it out for a season? And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
You've joked that you were the first to do some of these things, and you made sure you would be the last.
No, I didn't. I wasn't trying to close any doors for sure. I'm sure I did though, but no. I wasn't trying.
How do you pay it forward to other up-and-coming comics who want to do what you do?
How do I, or how should I? How do I don't have a lot of. I think people think like the instant you're here, touring and having industry doors open for you, that like it's immediately like you can bring everyone else with you. But unfortunately, it's not that case. The way I try is like I'll try to bring funny people on the road with me, or like give people spots on shows and stuff. But on the flip side of it, there's never one thing that's gonna do the thing for you. In the sense of like, yeah, sure, I may give you a spot to open for me or something, but that individual spot is not going to really lead to anything. It may, but it's really the aggregate of all the opportunities you take advantage of that lead to something. That being said, like I'll never forget, like Maz Jobrani was probably the first person to ever bring me on the road with him, and that was because I had a finance job. The boss was Lebanese. The company knew that I did stand-up, and it was a boutique investment bank, so it was a very small shop, maybe 15, 20 people. The CEO, head banker guy, Fouad, knew I did stand-up. He was Lebanese. He brought me into his office. He's like, you do comedy? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you know this guy? And he turns his iPad around. It's Maz Jobrani. I'm like, I heard of him. But I knew he was performing at Caroline's, back when Caroline's still existed, RIP. I asked the booker at Caroline's to do like a guest spot on Maz's show. Or I asked a friend who knew Maz to see if I could do a guest spot. I did one, I did well, did another one, did well, did like the entire weekend with Maz, and then Maz was like, you wanna come on the road? I was like, of course. And it didn't lead to anything beyond that, but you never know what. Like when Chris saw me and he told me I was funny, like before, it was 3 months before he gave me a job, like that was like getting an HBO special to me. It just felt like the greatest thing in the world, you know? So hopefully, short answer is like, hopefully I can pay it forward by giving people the same opportunities I was given when I'm in the position to give them. Right now I'm in a position to be like, you wanna go on the road, you wanna do some spots? And
what I love about your stand-up and your comedy in particular is you're both a wry observer of what's happening around, both within your family to what's happening geopolitically. And you make jokes that are so specific to our community that really we feel very seen and very amused by, but also it's applicable to the wider audience. How do you go about crafting a joke?
A lot of personal events happened, you know, and it's just like my natural kind of reaction to something. That's where everything kind of starts. And then I'll be on my computer literally just like whittling, like writing everything out and then whittling it down, writing everything down. Like, oh, this is something I missed. That's like towards the end of the crafting of it, where it's just like, all right, what are the details I need to add to this to make this whole picture like complete? But it really starts with just something that happened to me or something that I observed.
That's great.
It's hard, but yeah.
Yeah. Your style is very bold, unapologetic, and really, really smart.
Thank you.
I think you have a great take on explaining what's happening in the world and putting it to context of a bigger picture while also finding the humor in any given moment. I'm kind of thinking about your joke about Cash Patel, and as Patels, we sort of not acknowledge him.
Yeah.
How do you kind of think about explaining then entertaining about current world events? Because Hassan does the same, but you have very different styles about it.
Well, I've always thought that infotainment was not the lane I wanted to go into, and so I try to veer as far away from that as possible. It just so happens sometimes things that are funny need a little bit of a setup before you can really poke fun at it. Usually if I'm informing somebody of something, it's because I'm also learning it for the first time. You know, even Indian people don't know our origin story in this country, and I didn't until I looked it up. And I was like, y'all gotta know that we didn't just end up here in the 50s, 60s. Like, my parents came in the 70s and 80s. But like, we were here, like you always hear about the Chinese railroads, but you never hear about the Indian guys that were also next to the Chinese guys making these railroads. You know, how like Bhagat Singh then came to the United States in the late 1800s, and how he sued the United States for citizenship because we fought in World War I. Like, you don't hear about that. And I never learned about that either. So the approach is always, if I'm learning something for the first time, then I'll tell you about it, and I'll try to make it as irreverent and not like pedantic as possible. But like, the short answer is like, I go funny first. Like, what's the funniest thing first? And then usually that's the most ignorant thing, and then I can like walk that back. Like the Ganesha stuff is wildly ignorant, but it's also like when I Googled the story of Ganesha, I was like, this is a preposterous thing that we like celebrate this beheading, you know? It's like, what a ridiculous story. Like, no one asked Ganesha how he feels about having an elephant head, you know? Like, but that's like the take, you know? It's like, if now that I've got you hooked on the laugh, like, okay, now I can explain to you like why I find this so stupid.
Controversy has found you
Yes.
in your comedy career, and you've dealt with it, you know, by addressing it face on in the case after what happened at Columbia, going on Rogan and explaining it, and also putting a boundary on it when you refused to appear on Tucker Carlson's show.
Yep.
And you were really enraged when he used that clip from Rogan in his own special.
Yeah.
How do you deal with controversy?
I really don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, in the moment, it feels like, I mean, I can only speak to like the one, I think that's the only controversy that I've been involved in thus far. With Columbia, in the moment, it felt like a lot. It felt like everyone was looking at me kind of thing, but in reality, that wasn't really what was happening. I can rest on the fact that most of the time, I know that I've done nothing wrong. And so that I always have. If I've done nothing wrong, then I have a little bit of faith in Ganesha or whoever that I will be okay. And in that moment, it definitely felt like I didn't do anything wrong. But it felt like a moment I could seize and kind of defend myself. And for better or for worse, I think I did a good job doing that. The regret being, hey, I wish I were funnier in the moment, because funny always wins. And I wish I were funnier in the reaction to the moment, like on Rogan or whatever. But it is what it is, you know, it all worked out.
Is there something you haven't done yet in your comedic career that you want to do?
I need a show. I'd love to do a show, my own show, whether it be narrative or unscripted or variety or whatever. I have interest in a lot of things. I think narrative is where I'm going to go next. That's the hope and the ambition. I'm also just tired of touring. It's been a lot. But I'm tired in the sense like physically it's demanding, and now I have a kid, I'm just gonna want to be home all the time. But like I very much enjoy just like going up in front of crowds and performing, like making a really good show for everybody. I would love to flex another muscle and work on other parts of my craft and see what other challenges I can meet and beat.
That's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you were to sit down with your younger self, what would you tell him, or what would you not tell him?
I would tell him do drugs earlier, for sure, responsibly. I think like even now, it's really hard to know who you are if you don't do the work to figure that out and do the work to like talk to yourself and motivate yourself and discipline yourself. Like I think in my early 20s and definitely in my early 20s, my college years, I was kind of just like floating, you know, like a plastic bag in the wind. It was just like whatever happened, and I was just going with it. And I think if I were to talk to that young kid, like I would tell him to like be really determined and then like write the steps down that is required to do the things that you want to do. I think like I always worked out on the flow kind of thing, like, but there was not a lot of planning involved. I always imagined things would just come, and a lot of it worked out. But I think there's been moments where I was like, man, I wish I had thought of this earlier or thought this through earlier or anything like that. But yeah, I would tell him that. What would I not tell him? I don't know. I try not to have any regrets. I'm sure I've got a billion of them, but that are small and minuscule. But like I regret eating the slice of pizza I had before I came here. But on a large scale, no, I don't know what I would take away from that kid.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was quick.
Thank you for watching TDS.
Thank you very much.